chapter 85 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Narasimha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. A terrible noise was heard. It was like the clap of thunder. The entire world trembled in fear on hearing the noise. But Hiranya was not afraid. He kept on staring at the pillar. Even as he was looking, the pillar split into two, and out of it emerged the Lord. The Lord had assumed a terrible form. Glowing like molten gold, he stood there. His eyes, which were flecked with gold, looked at Hiranya, and they were glaring out of the face of a lion. An immense tongue, red like blood, was lashing in the huge mouth, which was like a cavern. The tongue looked like a sword dipped in blood. The lion had an immense mane. Its chest was immense too, and the waist was slender like that of a lion. Waist downwards, however, it was the form of a man, a human being. Everyone who saw it was struck with terror, but not Hiranya. He stood staring at it and thinking to himself, "What a strange looking thing is this? It is neither a man nor is it an animal." Suddenly his mind went back several years. He was standing on the slope of the Mandara mountain, and Brahma was before him. He remembered the boon he had asked for, the boon of immortality, and he remembered Brahma saying that he was unable to do so. He had then said, "Grant me that none of your creations will be the cause of my death. None of the things created by you should be able to kill me." Hiranya came back with a start to the present. This was definitely not a thing created by Brahma. Could it possibly be that this was his death? Hiranya shrugged the thought away, and with his weapon upraised he rushed towards the Lord. For a moment he could not be seen because of the glow emanating from Narasimha. Hiranya hit the Lord with his mace. The Lord lifted him bodily like Garuda would a snake. Hiranya wriggled out of his grasp, and again he attacked Narasimha with his mace. The Lord caught him in his mighty arms. Carrying him to the door of the hall, Narasimha paused at the threshold. He placed the Asura on his lap after sitting on the threshold. Hiranya looked helplessly around. The sky was deepening into darkness. It was neither day nor night. He smiled to himself and realized that this was the end. It was neither day or night. He was on the threshold of the hall, which was neither inside the house nor outside it. He was caught in the arms of this beast, which was not a beast, and man, who was not a man. He had placed him on his own lap. That was again one of the boons he had asked. He should die neither in the sky nor on the earth. With a strange clarity, all his words came back to him, like a landscape is reflected in a drop of dew. And yet he was not afraid. He tried to fight again, but the grip of his enemy was too strong. He turned his eyes on his son as if to say, "Perhaps what you said is right. There seems to be someone stronger and more powerful than me." Placing Hiranyakashipu on his lap, Narasimha tore his entrails with his nails and his teeth. The sight was dreadful. He plucked the entrails out, and placing them around his neck like a garland, Narasimha looked fiercely around. The world suffered agony as a result of his wrath. The sea was shaken into mighty waves, and the earth trembled in fear. The sky and the heavens lost their glow because his lustre swallowed all other light. The clouds were scattered here and there, and the planets were all suffering under an eclipse. The oceans were heaving as though there was an upheaval in the nether world. The elephants guarding the quarters were frightened because of the roar of the lion god. The earth was quaking, since she could not bear up under his powerful stride. The Lord walked with his dead victim and sat on the throne. No one dared to go near him. No one dared accost his angry form, not the Devas, nor Brahma, nor Lakshmi. Standing far away from him, Brahma spoke words of praise. The Devas and Brahma along with Mahadeva, said, "Strange indeed are the ways of the Lord. You are the motivating force in everything that happens. You are the one who originally caused anger in the minds of the Sanaka brothers. It was you who caused your Bhaktas Jaya and Vijaya to be hurled into the world of sin. You are the one who made me deluded enough to grant all the boons which Hiranya asked for, and in the house of this Asura was born the greatest of your Bhaktas, and that too was because you wanted it. You made the father try to kill the son, and finally, to protect your Bhakta, you have taken upon yourself this task of destroying the wicked Asura. Who can gauge the purpose behind your actions? We salute you in all humility." Narasimha was anger personified. When the Devas with Brahma had gone to him long ago asking him to help them to rid the world of Hiranyakashipu and his tyranny, the Lord had said, "When he hurts his son, who will be my Bhakta, his son will be untainted by faults like enmity and cruelty. Who will ever be tranquil and unruffled by the sufferings inflicted on him because of his devotion to me? Then will I appear in person and destroy Hiranya, though he is protected by the many boons you have granted him." It was the Lord's anger against a man who had dared to offend his Bhakta which had taken the form of Narasimha. Long after the killing of Hiranya, his anger had not abated. The Devas, led by Brahma, were not able to approach him. So terrible was his appearance. Standing at a distance, they spoke words in praise of the Lord. They then went to Lakshmi, the goddess, and said, "Mother, only you can appease your Lord and his anger. The earth and the skies are suffering as a result of his coming. The clouds are scattered far and wide by the shake of his mane. The planets in the skies are not glowing since they are eclipsed by his glory. The oceans are suffering great upheaval because the waves are being tossed about by his breath. The elephants which are bearing up the earth in 8 quarters are all trembling since they think that thunder and lightning are striking them down, and the earth, as a result, is trembling. Not being able to bear the hot breath of the Lord, the heavens are receding far away. The mountains are threatening to move since the earth is trembling. Unless the Lord is appeased, the world will come to an end, and so will the heavens." Lakshmi took one look at her Lord, and her face went pale with fright, and she said, "I do not have the courage to approach him when he is in this mood. I have never seen him like this, and I am afraid." Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ugram Veeram Mahavishtum Jwalantam Sarvatomukam Narasimham Bhishanam Bhadram Mrutyum Namamyaham. Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Chapter 86 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Prahlada's Prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narasimha was seated on the throne of Hiranyakashipu, and praises were reaching him from a distance. Brahma then went to Prahlada and said, "Child, the Lord took this form and killed your father because of the affection he has for you, his dear Bhakta. It is up to you to appease his anger. None of us can approach him. Only you can save the world from his wrath." Without speaking a word, with his eyes streaming with tears of joy at seeing his beloved Lord, the young child went near Narasimha and fell at his feet, washing them with his tears. The Lord looked at Prahlada, and his glance rested tenderly on him. He placed his hand on the head of the child after raising him up. Prahlada felt a thrill running through his entire body at the touch of the Lord's hand. His sins were all gone, and at that moment was revealed to him the truth about the Brahman. His eyes were closed, his palms were folded together like a lotus bud, and his eyes were raining tears incessantly. He stood still like a tree, and his voice was choked with sobs as he began to praise the Lord and his glory in his childish treble. "My Lord, you are inaccessible to Brahma and the Devas, to the rishis who sit in meditation for eons of time, to wise people whose words flow like water and who are very great and good men. All these are unable to have a glimpse of your form, and yet, low born Asura as I am, how can I have been blessed by the sight of you? In your infinite love for me, you have shown yourself to me. I am the most fortunate of all beings. They say that 12 qualities are dear to you: birth in a noble family, wealth, beauty of form, tapas, scholarship, skill in work, glory, fame, strength, courage, effort, and intellect. What is greater than all these is said to be the Ashtanga Yoga, which is supposed to lead straight to you. But you have shown me and the world that bhakti, mere love for you, is enough, and in fact, all these other things stand in the way of reaching you. Even Ashtanga Yoga is far inferior to bhakti. I am sure of it. Or else, how could a mere animal, an elephant, get your mercy? The Lord, I know, is pleased only with bhakti. If a man has a beautiful body or a handsome mate, or wealth as great as the mountain Meru, or great mastery over the use of words, and if he has no devotion for the Lord, what then is the use of all these things which he possesses? Bhakti and nothing else pleases you. Lord, all these gods who have assembled here are your bhaktas, and they are all dear to you. We Asuras worship you, but the devotion of the Devas is superior to ours. Even they are frightened of you. Your avatara should bless the world. It is for the sake of increasing the glory of the world and to make everyone happy that you have taken this form. Please shed this anger, my Lord. The Asura who incensed you is dead, and I am asking you to give up this anger for the sake of others. I am not frightened of you or your anger or your form, but I am afraid of only one thing, the dread ocean called samsara. That is what is terrible in form and unbearable for one who wants to be with you. Like the time when the Asura servants of my father tied me up and threw me into the waters to be drowned, I am tied by the bonds of karma which are of my own making, and I am being thrown into the ocean called samsara. I have had a sight of you, and I am praying that my bonds have been burnt away, that I will reach you soon. Lord Narasimha abandoned his anger, and placing the young child on his lap, he said, Child, I am very fond of you. You are the greatest of the Asuras and the noblest. I want to grant you any boon you desire. Ask me. I am here to satisfy all the desires of men. Ask me what you desire most, and I will grant it. The Lord was trying to tempt the child with the things of the world, but Prahalada was not affected by the offer of a boon. He smiled very sweetly and said, Do not try, my Lord, to deceive me and deny my place. Deny me the place by your side, which is all I want. I am an Asura, and the Asuric nature runs after the objects of the senses. Knowing this weakness in us, you are trying to tell me that I should plunge into this ocean called samsara of my own accord. No, my Lord, I have seen you, and you know that I have always loved you. I am afraid of the group of senses, and I detest the objects of these. I think you are trying to test the strength of my devotion to you. One who asks a favor of you in return for his devotion is not a bhakta, but a trader. I am only your bhakta without any desires, and as for you, you are my Lord who does not expect anything from a bhakta except bhakti. Where does the need arise here for the talk about desires and the granting of them? And yet, since you have commanded me to ask a boon of you, I will not insult you by refusing it. I want a boon from you. I want your form to be in my heart forever, and thus I should be able to have no place for worldly desires there where you are. If love for you is steadfast in this heart of mine, then the indriyas, the mind, the breath of life, the body, dharma, courage, intellect, shamefacedness, wealth, glory, memory, and even truth will all have to leave the place and become destroyed by the fire which is bhakti. When bhakti is firm, the first thing which goes is ego, and with the ego will vanish all the qualities associated with it. When man sheds the desires in his heart, he becomes as rich as you are, my Lord. I salute you, the ancient Purusha. the Parabrahman, Hari, Narayana, Narasimha. Narasimha was now a Shantamurti, and everyone came near to him, stood in his presence and praised him. Lakshmi came and sat by his side, and he became Lakshmi Narasimha. He said, "My child, you will live till the end of this kalpa. Without getting involved in them, you will enjoy the pleasures of the world. You will be free of the bondage of karma, and finally you will reach me." Prahlada bowed his head and said, "Lord, be gracious to my father. He was ignorant of the glory that is you, and he spent his entire life hating you. You were angry with him for his treatment of me. Forgive him and let him be rid of the sin by name Bhagavat Bhakta Nindana, which is an unforgivable sin in your eyes." "So be it," said Narasimha. He smiled and added, "Because you have been born in the line of Hiranya, he and 21 of his ancestral lines have been purified. He has reached the land of your Pitris. You may perform the rites for him. I also want you to know that all your descendants will be dear to me." Narasimha then told Brahma, "You should not from now grant boons indiscriminately to the Asuras. It is like feeding the serpents with nectar." Narasimha vanished from their sight. Prahlada then honored the Devas and Brahma, and they returned happily to their homes. The throne which had been lodged in their sights for all their years of suffering had been removed, and they were happy. Narada continued his narration to Yudhishthira. He said, Thus Diti's sons were killed by Narayana. They had been constantly thinking of him, though the feeling was hatred. Because of the curse of Sanaka and his brothers, the doorkeepers of Vishnu, Jaya and Vijaya were again born as Ravana and Kumbhakarna. Narayana was born as Rama and killed them. Shishupala and Dantavakra are the two remaining Janmas of Jaya and Vijaya. Jaya has now reached the feet of the Lord, and Vijaya will follow very soon. Yudhishthira, you must have noticed that the first Janma of these two was such that Krodha was predominant, and it was accompanied by Mada. In the birth of Ravana, Kama was the main vice which was rampant. In this Janma, Matsara is the predominant emotion in the minds of these two. The one who listens to the story of Prahlada and the grace of the Lord to this Bhakta will never again be born in this world, said Narada, and concluded his story. Yudhishthira was silent for a moment and then said, Fortunate indeed was the Asura child Prahlada, who has seen the Lord in person. Narada smiled pityingly at him and said, Yudhishthira, have you not realized yet that you are more fortunate than all the others? I will explain it to you. Prahlada and his guru, who is myself, were not as fortunate as you are. Your ancestors like Pururavas, rishis like the great Vashishta, why, even Brahma, the creator, are inferior to you. They spent ages studying the Upanishads and searched for the Brahman, who has been said to be hidden therein. As for you, this Brahman, this quintessence of the Upanishads, is living with you even if you do not ask him to. Your home is as pure, as holy, as sacred as all the Upanishads put together. The Parabrahman did not live in the house of the child Prahlada, and the rishis did not go to his house to see the Brahman. Do you know what has happened now? The rishis are searching for the Brahman in Vaikunta, in the solar space, in the ocean of milk, in Shweta Dvipa, and not finding it there, they are looking for him everywhere. He has concealed himself in a human form, and he is running errands for you. Tell me, are the others fortunate, or you? Krishna, as the Parabrahman, is living here with you. He is dear to you, and he is your cousin. He is your well-wisher. He does not expect anything from you. He is your uncle's son. He is my very soul. You say in affection for him, but it is true. At times he is your guru, and at other times he is your kinsman who works for you. Do you not remember that he worked for you when he had this Indraprastha built for you, and when he went to the castle of Jarasandha with your brothers and had him killed so that you could perform the Rajasuya? At times he is your mentor, and at other times he is your cousin, one younger than you and one who prostrates before you. The Munis searched for him everywhere, and not finding him there, they came to the earth. They went to Mathura and then to Vrindavana. They then went to Dwaraka, and finally they followed him to your house, where he is living as any other human being. Even Brahma and Mahadeva are at times unable to know his true nature. The rishis worship him with silence, their bhakti and their sannyasa, and yet they are not able to realize him. They know about him, but they have not seen him. That Brahman is this Krishna, and fortunate indeed is the world, since he is walking on it. And fortunate are you and your brothers to have him all for yourselves. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Pranamastu. Chapter 87 of Shrimadbhagavatam, The Elephant and the Crocodile. There was a hill by name Trikuta. It was famed for its beauty, and it was surrounded on all sides by an ocean of milk. The creepers which grew on the hill were incandescent like gold and silver, and the quarters would glow because of the light from the hill. It was 100 yojanas in extent. Conches were there in plenty, and precious stones as well. From a height, the earth dark in color, the sea white and milky, and the hill green in color, with the trees and shrubs and creepers together gave the effect of an emerald set in silver. It was a beautiful hill. Wild animals were there, and sweet music from the nests of the birds would mingle with the roar of the lions and tigers that lived in the caves. The fragrance of the air, which had been perfumed by the many sweet-scented flowers, would draw the divine beings to spend their time there. It became the playground of many of the divine beings. Siddhas, Charanas and Gandharvas would go there very often and spend their time in the caves and valleys, which glowed with the lustre of the many precious gems embedded in the rocks. In that hill was a garden by name Rituman. It was crowded with flowering trees of every kind: Mandara, Parijata, Patala, Ashoka, Champaka, Chuta, and fruit trees like the pomegranate and the mango. There were tall trees which touched the skies, Devadaru and Sala trees. The garden belonged to Varuna. There was also a beautiful lake in that hill. It was a very large lake, and on its face floated lotuses, blue, white and red. The makaranda from them was so profuse that there could always be heard the humming of summer bees, which were hovering round the flowers. Water birds like the crane and the swan were always to be found there, and the fish and the tortoises inside the water could be seen clearly, since the water was so placid. The banks of the lake had flowering shrubs like the jasmine, the kunda and the jaji, punaga and karavaka, and the creeper madhavi. The scent there was overpowering, so much so one felt faint. In that hill dwelt an immense elephant with his entire herd. He would wander at will, and his herd would ever be with him. His favorite pastime was to uproot the bamboo grooves and the tender sprouts from the canes, were the favorite food of the elephants, and they would wander at will in the forest. The elephant was so wild and so powerful that even wild animals like the lion and the tiger and wild boar and bulls would run from the spot where the elephant stood. Once during summer, after a long march with his companions, the elephant was feeling very tired and extremely thirsty. From a distance he smelled the perfume which was part of the lake, and he went fast towards the lake. His herd came with him, and soon they reached the lake and entered it. It was refreshing to bathe in the lake and to drink the sweet water. Once their thirst was quenched, they did not feel like coming out of the lake. They spent a long time playing in the clear water and making it muddy and full of mire. The master elephant would take water in his trunk and pour it over the backs of the small ones and the she elephants. Like a man absorbed in the pleasures of samsara, takes no heed of the fact that his life is getting shorter day by day, the elephant paid no heed to the passage of the time. All unaware of the danger lurking in the waters, he went on playing like a samsari who does not see that it is a trap to catch him and bind him forever. Instigated by fate, a crocodile which had been living in the lake for a long time grasped the leg of the elephant in its mighty jaws. The unexpected pain made the elephant wince, and he tried to shake off the crocodile. It was not possible. Try as he might, the elephant found it impossible to get out of the clutches of the crocodile. His companions tried to help him, but it was all in vain. The grip of the crocodile was too strong, and the elephant, strong as he was not strong enough to shake off the crocodile. The tussle went on for a long time, for years. Even the devas were present to see this mighty duel between the lord of the forest and the king of the rivers. Slowly but very steadily, the strength of the elephant was ebbing away. The crocodile was gaining ascendancy. He found himself growing stronger and more powerful. The elephant finally realized that it was, for him, a losing fight, and that soon his life would also leave his body. At that moment, he began to see everything in the proper perspective. He pondered for a long while and told himself, I am in great trouble, and these, my dependents, are unable to extricate me from my predicament. I have realized that no one can help me now in this dire calamity which has befallen me. But still, I have one hope. I can surrender to the Lord, who is the refuge of even gods like Brahma. He is sure to protect me from the dread serpent called Yama, who is trying to frighten me. If he is with me, death himself will flee from me, since he is afraid of the Lord. I will pray to the Lord. He composed his mind and his thoughts and set them steadily on Narayana and began his song of praise. He said, Salutations to you, Lord of Lords. You are the ancient, the Purusha and the Prakriti, born of Purusha. You are the light which illumines the intellect of the human being. This entire universe is established in you. It was born of you and it has no existence apart from you. After creating it, you, at the time of the deluge, withdraw it into yourself. You are the light beyond the sources of all light. You stand on the edge of the sea of darkness, of tamas, which is all that is found at the end of pralaya, and you bring new life into the new creation which is born of the old. The cycle is unending and you are the cause behind the cosmos. It is to have a vision of you that rishis spend millions of years absorbed in meditation. You have no birth, no karma to perform, no names nor any qualities to distinguish you from the others. And yet, out of your maya you create forms for yourself, and these have names and qualities ascribed to them. The formlessness of you is forgotten by those who see you take up a form for the sake of the good of the world. You are beyond the reach of the senses, the mind, the emotions, the intellect. Still, though you are beyond comprehension, there are some who have realized you by becoming one with you. You are the seer, the drashta, for the functioning of the indriyas and their different individual behavior. You are the cause of everything, but nothing has caused you, since you are ancient, eternal, everlasting, without a beginning and so without an end. There is no limit to you, since you are the infinite. You are unaffected by the gunas and their interplay, and as a result, those who succumb to the maya, because by the gunas, are not able to realize the truth about you. Even as the glow from the sun and the fire erupt from it, glow for a while and are lost in the source itself, even so your glory emanates from you. This stream of gunas, this mind, intellect, senses and the bodies which enjoy these are all born out of you, and in the end are again lost only in you. They have no separate entity. Famed as you are to be beyond the gunas, still you have been known to be the personification of compassion as far as beings like me are concerned. Beings who surrender themselves entirely to you are sure to be cursed, sure to be cured of their ignorance, their avidya, and will be made to have a vision of the truth that is you. This birth of mine, which is full of avidya inside as well as outside, this elephant's form and mind is of no use to me. I have no desire to live any more. I want that moksha which will not be destroyed by the passage of time. Punya which is acquired is rewarded by a length of time in heaven. When that punya gets exhausted, man is again thrown back to the world of sin. I want a moksha different from this. I want to be cured of avidya. I am a mumukshu and I salute you, who is the cause of this universe, who pervades everything and yet who is apart from all that you have created, who are the ultimate truth. Yogis see you in their hearts, since their karmas and the results of their karmas have all been burnt in the flame of self-knowledge. The greatness that is you is hidden from foolish beings like me because of our thinking power is clouded by the sense of I and mine. I surrender myself to that infinite power, truth, light that is you. The Devas and Brahma and all the others were listening to the words of the elephant. The praise was for the Purusha, and each one of them knew that he was not fit for the words of praise which were used by the animal. Narayana was touched by the plight of the elephant and assuming the form Hari appeared before him on the shores of the lake. Garuda was carrying him. In his hand glowed the chakra by name Sudarshana. Looking on him, the elephant raised his trunk which held a lotus and said, Lord Narayana, I salute you. Narayana was overcome with compassion for the poor elephant and his plight. He entered the lake, killed the crocodile with his Sudarshana and pulled the elephant out of the lake. To the leg of the elephant was still clinging the dead form of the crocodile with its mouth gaping open. All the denizens of the heavens were watching in awe. They stood around the Lord, and the elephant, exhausted by the fight which had lasted all these years, was standing with its trunk still raised aloft. With infinite love, the Lord accepted the lotus which was held in the trunk, and the elephant was happy. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishna Arpanamast. Chapter 88 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Liberation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Even as they were looking on, there appeared a divine being out of the carcass of the crocodile. It was a Gandharva by name Huhu. He fell at the feet of the Lord and praised him with songs which came out of his Gandharva form. The people there came to know the reason for his having assumed the form of a crocodile all these years and the liberation he had at the hands of Narayana. Years ago, he was bathing in this same lake with his wives. Into that same lake plunged the great sage Devala. The Gandharva was in a playful mood and not knowing the gravity of his offense, he swam under water and from under he pulled the leg of the rishi who was standing in the water. Incensed at the act which disturbed his meditation, the rishi cursed him and said, Since you enjoy this sport so much, you will become a crocodile and do this all your life. The Gandharva, now contrite, begged him to reverse his curse, and his wives joined him in trying to appease the anger of the rishi. Devala relented and said, You will live here for a long time. Once the king of elephants will enter the lake with his herd. You must grab his leg and remember not to let go at any cost. The elephant will invoke the Lord, and he, in the form of Hari, will grant you freedom from this form by killing you with his chakra. The Gandharva made pradakshina to the Rishi Lord, and went away from there singing the praises of the Lord. Shuka Brahma saw the puzzled look on the face of Parikshit. Before he could frame the question, Shuka said, I know what you are thinking. You are surprised to find a mere animal speaking words which the greatest of the yogis have not been able to speak. How could it be possible for the elephant to know the truth about the Purusha? I will tell you. The southern country of Pandya was once ruled by a righteous king by name Indradyumna. He was ever devoted to Narayana. Once, he was worshipping the Lord silently on the slopes of the Malaya mountain. Having bathed in the river, he restrained his thought, mind, and breath. He meditated on the form of the Lord and he was observing the woe of silence while praying. The sage Agastya, who lived on that mountain, came by chance to that spot and he was surrounded by his disciples. The king, lost as he was to the world around him, did not see the rishi and so did not worship him in the manner which is customary. A Brahmin and that a rishi had come with his disciples and the king had apparently ignored him. Agastya, incensed at this apparent misconduct, said, Since he is standing thus, like a personification of tamas, this king will be born as an elephant, which is a symbol of nothing but tamas. After cursing him, the rishi went away. As for that great king Indradyumna, he was not in the least angry with the rishi for the curse. He took it as the command of the Lord and he undertook the curse visited on him with humility. He became an elephant and wandered in the forests of Trikuta mountain. But there was one remarkable thing about his life as an animal. Since his mind and his thoughts had been steeped in bhakti for the Lord, he remembered his previous birth. And so, when he was in trouble, he could pray to the Lord in words which a mere animal could not have known. Indradyumna was now released from his curse, and he had also obtained liberation from the bondage called samsara. When the Lord touched him, he changed his form. He now became one of the attendants of the Lord Narayana. He attained what is known as the Sarupa of Narayana. He was placed along with Narayana on the Garuda and soon was lost to the world of men. Garuda soared into the sky and soon he vanished from the sight of everyone on the banks of the lake in the garden by name Rituman on the mountain Trikuta. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.